Herzlich willkommen. Witam wszystkich. Welcome to everybody. Maybe first question, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, and do you understand me? Because I just lost my voice on that great occasion. I think you can understand me, it's great. Can I ask a question? How many of you are investors or prospective investors, so GPs or LPs? Okay, quite a few. How many of you are startups or innovative companies? A few as well. And how many of you are advisors, bankers? Okay. And how many of you are from Poland? Okay, so how many of you are international then, or foreign from Polish perspective? Great. I think it's a pretty good mix. The PFR Ventures Fund of Funds is a major Polish investor into venture capital, or what we call an LP specializing in venture capital. We expect to commit in the next 3 years over €500 million in commitments to venture capital funds. That makes us by far the largest in CE. We are part of a Polish development bank, PFR, and were created for the sake of managing a major EU-sponsored public funding program for the venture capital industry. Now, despite the fact that we are a public money manager, what we try to do is keep it as commercial and close to the market as possible. And so the entire team who invested money consists exclusively out of people who came from the private market. And we will introduce some of them over to you. I myself am heading the investment committee at PFR Ventures. This investment committee consists in majority of its members out of independent, experienced market professionals like myself. In majority, which means that the decision-making process is effectively ensured to be high quality and as commercial as possible by independent market practitioners. I spent 20 years in the investment industry. I've invested across stages from early stage through expansion over to buyouts. I started at Apex in Munich during the times that not many of you might remember, when Apex was actually a major early stage investor, both on the IT and biotech side. I then moved over to Advent International, where I spent 11 years investing mostly in development capital deals, later also buyouts, and where for 7 years I sat on the investment committee in the Central European region. It was actually for Advent, and because of Advent, that I moved back to Poland after 10 years of doing private equity and venture capital in Western Europe. And back then, what attracted me to Poland about 8 years ago was the Polish private equity opportunity. But what today keeps me hooked on Poland, and actually Europe as a whole, is much more the venture capital opportunity. It is because me and my colleagues at PFR Ventures, we expect a major growth in the venture capital and early stage funding and investing over the next years. The infrastructure that is necessary for this to happen has been already put into place in the last years. We saw major development of startup incubators, innovation centers or R&D centers. And as a result, we see the Polish economy becoming more and more innovation and R&D and startup driven. What has been lacking in the past and what will now follow, because partly of people like ourselves, is major funding for early stage ventures. It hasn't been there before, it is now coming, it will be coming over the next years in an increasing size. And what we as an investor, as an LP who is looking to commit to venture capital, what we look for is for both Polish and international GPs, so money managers, fund managers, who we can cooperate with to put this money to work and to invest it wisely. We also look for international LPs who might be interested in the opportunity. We can open the opportunity up to them, and we would look forward to sharing the know-how and to sharing a co-investment or co-funding opportunity. I will ask some other members of the PFR team to tell you in much more details about that opportunity. They both come from the private sector. One of them was deeply submerged in the startup industry. The other one was on the GP side, was a fund manager herself. So I will hand over to Eliza Kruczkowska, and to Rosalia Nowicka. Eliza is the Innovation Director at the PFR Group, and Rosalia Nowicka is an investment manager at PFR Ventures. I hope that you will like this opportunity and that you will find it interesting. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to come back at the end of this presentation and answer them. And I would also invite you to speak to some other colleagues who are in the room, and that is Bartek. Where is Bartek? There. There is Roman as well, and there is Anne-Marie over there who will be available for you. So if you can, please get to speak to them, ask your questions, get them answered, and if you cannot for whatever reasons, please leave your business card with them so that they can contact you after the event and make sure all your questions are answered. And now I'll hand over to Eliza. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Eliza, and I was leading the biggest startup organization called Startup Poland for 2 years. And we are basically a lobbying organization who, as a main goal, was having to talk to the politicians in Poland, and to explain them why technology is important, why tech entrepreneurs, it's the future of the entrepreneurs in Poland. And we decided to see how big is the market. And actually today I wanted to show you some few basic facts about startup ecosystem in Poland. So we conducted annual survey showing that last year in Poland there was over 2,700 startups working in Poland. This number is growing steady, and this year I think we are assuming this, it will be more above 3,000 of startups. 50 of them, and this is something that makes them so much different to startups in Western Europe, 50% of them, they self-finance. But they are very aware of what's happening abroad, and almost 60% of them are considering venture funding within the next 6 months. So that's a huge opportunity for VCs to come to Poland and look for good projects. The startups scene is still very young. As you can see, 2 years, that's the average age of Polish startup. And we are one of the youngest in Europe, but the community, which is growing quite rapidly, is located mostly in Warsaw, Krakow, and Poznań. So we did the survey, we went to the politicians and told them that's the future. And having this, so they read that, they said, okay, interesting, and they set up a special plan, first in our history, plan to support startups in our country. It's called Start in Poland, and it includes many different initiatives. There are work on special legislations. At the moment, they're working on a special bill on innovation, but that's we leave aside to the Ministry of Economy, and we are responsible for creating a great ecosystem in terms of education initiatives, financial initiatives, and some tools to help them to expand to international markets. And that's what we are responsible for. So, when you look at the life of startup, we thought to prepare some special incubator program for them. And this year, from January, we have launched 10 acceleration programs called Scale Up. And I think by the end of this year, there will be around 240 companies finishing these programs, so a great portfolio of new companies. And we did another experiment. We have encouraged big corporations from Poland to cooperate with them. So we want to boost this cooperation between, you know, the Open Innovation Initiative of mixing big corporation with startuppers, because we wanted as well these big Polish companies to open their minds and to implement some of the innovative initiatives in their company, and give to those startups possibility to sell to big clients. What else? We are as well aware that Europe is competing for talent. We want to as well, Poland want to as well attract the best talent. So in the second half of this year, we're going to launch a special program called Startup Prize that will attract foreigners to come to our country, not only from the East, but as well from the West of Europe and actually the whole world. And in the next year, we're planning to launch another 10 accelerators to have another pool of projects, but focused on a certain sectors like energy or fintech. Moreover, once the startups are ready to expand, we wanted to help them with this international expansion. So we have a special office that helps them to enter markets like San Francisco or Singapore. On the top of that, we want as well to mix them with another business partners in Asia. So we have launched programs like Go to China or Go India. And lastly, we decided as well to share what we are doing in Poland with people like you over here. So we're gonna visit not only Berlin, but we're planning to go to Tel Aviv, visit TechCrunch or Web Summit to show that Poland is a great place to start your business and invest your money. Thank you. So now I can invite to the stage Rosalia. She's she's investment director at PFR Ventures, so she will give you concrete, solid knowledge about how we're going to distribute our funds to the GPs.
Yeah. Thank you, Eliza.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rosalia Nowicka, and I'm investment manager at PFR Ventures. Before joining PFR, I spent a few years in private equity, focusing on growth equity investments. So, dear NOAH, where does the potential for venture capital market in Poland come from? The answer is human capital. It means it comes from young, smart, educated founders. Polish students are outperforming vast majority of their European peers in math and science. What is extraordinary about Polish universities is the fact that half of them is highly specialized in technology-related area. It means that out of 400 students who graduate from higher education each year, almost 200,000 are engineers or scientists. This is half of Estonian Tallinn population. Polish universities' base is matched by 162 innovation centers, which create a space for young innovators to work on their business ideas. These centers, incubators, innovation centers, accelerators, are learning how to be the best in commercializing ideas and implementing them into business. And they have the opportunity to learn from the best, most experienced market players like Google, which set up the largest technology hub campus in Poland. We are not only ones who believe in Polish potential when it comes to technology and innovation. When we take a look at a map with R&D centers in Poland from 2010, we can see that it was almost empty. In just 7 years, Poland became a hub for R&D center in Europe. An increasing interest in opening new R&D centers in Poland is a proof that our country is perceived as an innovation-driven economy. Every year, new international companies decide to open R&D center in Poland. In 2016, it was, for example, GE, Nokia, Mondelez. In the first quarter of 2017, Intel announced the launch of its Compiler Center of Excellence in Gdańsk, in Poland. For those who know that Polish programmers are in the top 3 in the world according to the Hacker Rank, it is not surprising. We are behind China and Russia, but well ahead of the United States and Israel. So, let me show you some basic economic fundamentals why international companies decided to choose Poland. Poland is not only the largest economy, one of the largest economies in the European Union, but was the only country to avoid the crisis during recession. Poland was the fastest growing economy pre-crisis and is the fastest growing economy in post-crisis Europe. This trend is expected to continue. The forecasted GDP growth is 3% per annum in the next 3 years. I don't know if you had a chance to read a recently issued PwC report, The Long-Term View, How the Economic Global Climate Change by 2050. According to the report, Poland was mentioned as one of the 2 countries which exhibit the greatest potential to be the fastest growing economies in the respective region. All of what I said is reflected in Poland moving up in international rankings. Today, we are 24th in doing business ranking, but 5 years ago, we were 62nd. In 5 years, we moved by 38 places up. Moving up in the ranking does not come easy, as other countries are also doing a lot to improve their business conditions. Poland's ambition is to improve further. What I would like to stress is that Poland's growth was based and will be based on hard work, brain power, and entrepreneurship. When it comes to entrepreneurship and potential for venture capital market, please take a look at these 2 companies. Both of them were funded in Poland. Both of them have IT background. Allegro, the largest auction business, the largest Polish marketplace, competitor of eBay and Amazon, firstly attracted Naspers and then finally was sold to a consortium of private equity firms, Cinven, Pyramid Europa, for over $3.2 billion. CD Projekt, video game developer, publisher, and distributor, has already a market cap of over $1.9 billion. After a success of its Witcher game, a series based on The Witcher was bought by Netflix, and it is believed to be the next Game of Thrones. Here are just few other examples of Polish companies which, according to the press, are on the way to become Polish unicorns. What does it mean for you? It means that for sure there is a great potential for venture capital market in Poland. And what is more important, Poland is now in an exceptional moment where 3 newly created funds of funds announced this year 1.4 billion financing for venture capital market. PFR Ventures is one of the largest institutional investors in CEE, and it provides financing for various segments and stages of venture capital market, starting from seed, incubation, startup, to growth and expansion. With €500 million under management, it created 5 dedicated funds of funds platforms to support each stage of venture capital market. The first platform, Starter, has 186 million of assets under management and is dedicated to venture capital funds investing in seed and incubation. The application process for venture capital funds to apply for the money from this platform, the first round was closed last week, but we expect the second and the third round to appear in the 3rd or the 4th quarter of the year. The second platform business, which is dedicated to venture capital funds, which cooperate closely and actively with business angels, is to be launched very soon. It has assets under management of 61 million euro, and it's also focused on seed and incubation financing. The third platform, CVC, is dedicated to venture capital funds which cooperate with corporates, so it's corporate venture capital funds. It has 100 million of assets under management, and its focus is from incubation to expansion. This program shall also be announced this summer. The fourth program, Coffee, is focused on growth and expansion financing and shall be announced in the third quarter. And the last platform, Open Innovation, which covers stages from incubation to expansion, but with significant technology component. So it's focused on innovation, shall be announced in the third or the fourth quarter of 2017. As Monika said at the beginning, we aim to be the professional institutional funds of funds with the best practices from the market. Our aim is to close transaction within 3 to 4 months, and up to 1.5 months, we aim to release conditional approval of the offer. At this point, I would like to hand over to Monika, who will summarize the presentation. Thank you.
Rosalia. This is just a statistics to put us on the map and show you how significant this funding program actually is. Poland has never seen something like this. And our strategy is on one hand to attract as many Polish GPs, both experienced ones and some also first-time teams, but also international GPs to look at the Polish opportunity. We understand that Poland is part of a European opportunity. We understand that some of the funds might want to invest outside of Poland as well, but what we would hope for is that somewhere within the strategy there is a significant link for the portfolio companies to look at Poland and to have some sort of a strategy for Poland, because ultimately our mission is to invest European money in Europe with the hope to support the development of the Polish economy. I am happy to take any questions that you might have, if there are any, or otherwise we're happy to talk somewhere offside with you after this presentation. So please, yes?
Hi, thank you very much. First of all, let me congratulate you on that program. I really think that you brought something together that Poland probably has not seen before. My name is Christian Weiss. I've started Rocket Internet for the Samba Brothers 10 years ago in Berlin. And when I look at Berlin 10 years ago or plus, and I compare it to Warsaw, which I have been for both personal and professional reasons involved for 20 years or so, I really see that Warsaw has the potential of becoming the next Berlin, because not only when looking at the early stage tech industry, but also looking at property development in the city. So I really see a lot of things that I used to see 10 years ago, and that I think that the Samba Brothers, Rocket Internet, and others have somehow kicked off here. And I think we have a great chance of doing so there, which is also the reason why I joined forces with my Polish partner, and we have handed in our application last Friday. So let's see whether we see each other again, because I truly believe in this program. However, and this is probably of interest for all of us, whenever I spoke to our potential LPs, there was mainly 2 questions that they had. It wasn't hard to convince them that there is a great value in looking at the amazing Polish talent that we have been hiring for years now and trying to convince to come to Berlin. And now they have a lot of reasons to stay there where they are. And if I compare both markets, I would say that there is a lot of superior talents in the coming future, in the coming technologies in Poland, if you compare it to the other Western European countries. If we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, all those things, there's a lot of talent there. However, there is a lack of leadership, a lack of experienced investment professionals. So I think that is all clear. However, when they think of some sort of political involvement, there's people who are a bit afraid, because it's hard for people not having any insights in what is happening in Poland to come up with a judgment whether this might give that a dangerous spin that you don't want to have when acting as a privately motivated LP. So one point would be, could you tell us a bit about the background of this EU money and your relations to the Polish government? And the second question, I think that is something that everybody has to answer for himself, is very much deal flow related. We are very active on the market. I think we see a lot of deals there, but if you look at the mass of capital that you guys are going to provide, NCBR is with Bridge VC, et cetera, I think it is a question everybody has to ask himself: where are all those fantastic deals that can absorb those tons of money? And if it is a lack of deals, which might be the case, how can you differentiate to be the investor they choose to go with? So first question, is there a risk that you see with regards to any political influence? And the second, do you share the concern that it might be too much money overwhelming the market that is still at a very early and immature stage because of all those various programs?
Thank you for these questions, and thank you for the clear marketing, for the Polish market, because I think we agree with a lot of your statements, and I'm actually glad to hear you have put in an application for Starter, and also just an information for everybody who hasn't managed to put an application for Starter. We expect that there will be a chance of another round later on, so that there is a learning process in the market as well. Starter, in particular, is a very large program with a lot of funds available. Now, first on the political climate, I've never been a politician. I've always tried to stay as far away from politics as I only could, and I hate commenting on that in general. I think the fact that I have joined the expert board of PR Fair Ventures tells you that we expect and hope that this program will pretty much stay unrelated to the politics. It is officially part of the PR Fair, which is a vehicle overseen by the Ministry of Development, Mr. Morawiecki. It is operating on the same standards as the EU programs have operated in the past within the peer and later PR Fair group, and that means these independent investment committees that consist of independent members from the market. This is a rule across the entire PR Fair group and has been for quite some time now. And it has worked, and it hasn't been changed, touched, or in other way impacted. So there is an EU funding that is committed to a structure that is largely commercial and operates on independent expertise. Therefore, I don't think really that this program will in any way be impacted. And I think you would have to really take a view of, will the greater economy be significantly impacted by any political risks as a whole? That is obviously, I think, difficult always to say. But I think it is fair to say that also given where the European budget is for the next 6 years, I suppose that it will be a priority of this and any other government to use wisely the funds available for innovation. I cannot imagine that any government, be it this or any other government, would want to hurt the efforts of actually funding innovation in Poland. So I think that's kind of from a macro perspective. I think if there is any area where the risk is the smallest of being impacted by any political risk, whatever it would be, I think that would be this area, because there is a general consensus this area has to be supported. You see, Eliza mentioned this bill on innovation. There is a small bill on innovation that was actually put into place already, and the current government is working on a new bill for innovation that looks at removing a number of barriers to funding R&D and venture capital funding. That includes even things like, helping with taxation issues. So the authorities are thinking very proactively about what needs to be done. And interestingly, even the fact that people like Eliza, who were on the startup side lobbying aggressively for solutions for startups, have been just asked to move over and, with the message, listen, whatever you think should be done, just do it. Right? So I think that innovation side is probably least impacted, as I said, and I hope, that looking in hindsight in 2 or 3 years' time, we say that these statements were actually correct. But I think we're all looking to see. On the second point, is there too much money? I think this market is really at a friction point. You saw 2,700 startups, which isn't a big number, but when you consider that they are on average 2 years old, then that means that there is more than 1,000 coming to the market every year, and this number is growing every year. So probably in 2 or 3, there will be 2,000 or 3,000 coming to the market in a given year. And if you look at the structure of the funding that we will be providing, or the NCBR is providing, it is about funding the pre-seed, seed, and incubation, plus R&D-driven innovation in the first step. This is exactly the part of the market where the funding just wasn't available. And so these startups were created, they were actually not funded because private capital wasn't interested in that sort of a risk, and public capital wasn't really available. And so as a result, there was a natural barrier for these ideas to commercialize, and this is exactly what we're addressing. And within our portfolio, Starter, which is like 1/3 of the entire funding, goes into this very early stage, really risky part of that market. So that these 1,500 of companies, in 2-3 years, 2,000-3,000 of companies can actually get risk capital, as they call it here in Germany. And this is, I think, what hopefully, does not mean that there will be enough projects today to invest 2 billion zlotys. It just means that I hope the pipeline will be created at a structural level so that in 2 or 3 years there is sufficient inflow of funds. And so as we look to be committing the funds gradually and the GPs learn and gather experience, so will grow the potential portfolio companies base or the potential target base. If we get this right, then in 3 years we will face a completely different market. And I think this is effectively our role to make sure that we do.
Yeah, I can just add, because that's actually my responsibility to think about ideas, how to have annually new pool of projects. So you see this year we did this 10 accelerators program. That's a pilot thing, so we will see what will be the quality of the outcome. But we're thinking about already initiatives for 2018, 2019. So because we are aware that about all of the things that you mentioned, and we want to invest this money in a wise project, because at the end, Polish Development Fund as well is a fund. So we want as well to receive some return on investment out of it. So we are on your side, and we really look at the whole process from a business perspective. And the government is quite open, and as well they want as well this money to be spent in a wise way, because someone gonna ask them in 2-3 years, okay, what happened with this money? So, and they listen to us. So they're looking for ideas, and as well, if you have an idea what we could do in Poland, we as well open to talk, and we are observing how they did the YOSMA program in Israel in '93. They have structured the whole acceleration program, and we're looking at that and evaluating this and implementing in Poland as well.
And the truth is, I think that we're trying to create a perfect storm. It's very difficult to predict the result of that storm, but every constituent that we have managed to identify that is structurally responsible for better, faster development of the startup base or venture capital market, we're trying to somehow make sure it exists in Poland. And so, for example, involvement of major corporations. We have the acceleration program on one hand, the CVC, co-investment fund on the other hand. We're trying to actually activate major corporations into the innovation and startup funding and mentoring process. It has never been done in the past. It will take a few years to really kick in and bring fruit, but if it does bring fruit, we will face a different market in a few years' time. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you. This is Bartek Gola from Speed Up Group. It's a question, but it's also a part of the discussion. I totally disagree that there is too much money in Poland. Totally disagree with this. And I think I would be very interested if you could say a little bit more about the later stage funds you are about to fund. Because I think the problem we have right now, and we're going to have in upcoming years, is that we will not be able to deliver the money to the best companies on post-A round stage. So if you look at Poland, there are many companies who go very quickly to public market, probably too quickly. It's because they can't raise a proper rounds at good valuations. And I think the A-B round or even growth fund would be very, very needed. I know that there is such a plan, but the question about timing and all about that.
When I look at this slide, the later stage is really the CVC to the extent it involves the major corporations, the coffee, which is really a growth type of fund, and the open innovation, which is again large tickets up to 15 million zlotys, but R&D focused, so specialized kind of growth financing around R&D. This is, the total funding power, so 270 or 280 million euro. So it's roughly half of the entire program. But what is important to say is these 3 programs will or should attract significantly more of private capital on top than the early stage programs. We understand the starter, that's very high risk, pre-seed, seed incubation. Private investors may not be there. 20% of private money is enough. We can back up to 80% of any fund. The later stage, that should be 50-50. If we get 50-50, that means that there is 500 million in total of funding for that stage. And also, if you consider this, what we're doing as part of our work, we will go around Europe trying to get other professional investors, LPs, hooked on Poland, interested in Poland, and attracted to co-invest. We have to do if we want these programs to be successful. And I suppose that many of them might feel just by nature of risk more attracted to try the later stage, because they have a new market which is for them emerging, that's high risk already, so they will want to lower the risk on the investment stage side. And so I suppose they are much more likely to come to this area as well. So our work of attracting LPs on a consistent and structural basis might actually bring the funds that you're looking for. Because I think we're aware of the challenge. And I think one of the opportunities of doing all that, if we do it right, will be to create a pipeline for investors across the stages and make sure that all the stages are funded. So that is really our idea. I think kind of beyond coffee, the kind of 20 million zlotys plus, there should be commercial funds with commercial money without public funding, actually. They should be able to take the space, maybe with EIF, maybe with EBRDF, anchor investors, but we actually hope that that's where our mission should end. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, thank you. So maybe I can just ask once again the PFR and PFR team to stand up just so that you see who they are. And if you're interested to speak with us, please do leave your business card. We will contact you if you don't have time to speak now. Thank you very much for your time and attention.